Kimberly. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am joined today with Jeanette Armbrust, who is our chair-elect for the NAWBO Institute for Entrepreneurial Development. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeanette.
And my pleasure.
Yeah, and before we get started, I'm going to introduce myself. I am Kimberly Snodgrass. I am one of two certification managers for the NAWBO Institute. And Jeanette, love to hear a little bit about you before we get into some of our strategies on how our women business owners can leverage their certification.
Yeah, sure. So I owned a business in Columbus, Ohio called Skyline Exhibits, and we were a trade show and event company. I sold my business after 17 years in 2017 and launched a new location out in Los Angeles, which then turned over in 2020 during COVID. So now I am the owner and CEO of Greenlight Executive Consulting Group, and I work with leaders to grow and scale their businesses, especially with exit in mind.
Wonderful. I love hearing the background with everyone that we have on here. It's so fascinating just to hear all the experience behind you.
For sure.
All right. Well, we can get started so we can dig into this a little bit. So the purpose of this video is mindset and just strategies on how you can leverage your certification. And one of the questions that we have is, so we have you're newly certified.
Sure.
How should our women business owners be thinking about this tool for their business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's extremely important. So to kind of back up in 2000, it was around 2010, I decided to become certified when I owned my Skyline Exhibits business. It was at a point where I was really wanting to kind of grow and scale to that next level and get some bigger contracts. So I went through the certification process, and then for about a year, it just sat. Because I didn't do anything with it. And I just, I put the logo on my business card, which was great, and on our website and everything. And then nothing really happened. So it wasn't until I really started to become strategic with leveraging the certification that it was really a game changer for me and allowed me to get some very large contracts with some very large Fortune 500 companies that I had worked at getting for years and years and years, but was never, to that final stage. And so I wanted to give a little bit of that background because I know what it's like to get that certification. You get the logo, you get the approval, you get the certificate, and then you think, okay, the business is just going to come.
Exactly.
Right. And we hear that. We hear that too, as we're starting to work with these women and getting certified, and that tends to be the mindset. And so I really challenge women that get certified, but then you really have to work on leveraging it, because the business just isn't going to come to you because you put the NAWBO certification logo on your website and on your business cards. You really have to be strategic in how you go after that business. The second thing is, before you even get started in approaching that business, I think you have to be very upfront with yourself and really look at what your capabilities are in your business. Because I'll give you one example. Okay. I got $1 million contract from one of the companies that if I wasn't careful, it could have bankrupted my business.
Wow.
Because you're going after large contracts. And if you're not in a position from a cash flow perspective, if you're not in a position from, being able to have a line of credit, a lot of these bigger companies are net 30, net 40, net 45, net 60, sometimes net 90 terms. So you need to really educate yourself on what are you able to handle at this point, because as we all know, as businesswomen, scaling has to be done strategically and very methodically. You can't go from here to here overnight without having the resources behind you to help you move forward. So I think, that really does play along with mindset to me. And I think it's something that you have to be very mindful of as you start to really leverage your certification, because it's almost that be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, be careful, because you have to be ready to do business, the kind of business that you're wishing for. And so positioning yourself to be able to succeed.
For sure. And if you're not in that position, then that's where, being a subprime to somebody that's the prime, the sole person is definitely an option. And I know we plan to talk about that on a different webinar at a different time. So that's a whole other category. But I think just being it's really easy to sit there and go, gosh, I wish I could get that $300,000 contract or that $100,000 contract or that $1 million contract. But are you really ready from a financial and infrastructure standpoint in your business to be able to fulfill the business that you're going after? So that I think is really, really important, to be honest with yourself about that.
That's such a great point. And when we did meet with one of our larger suppliers earlier last month, that was a big thing that they stressed is be ready, be positioned to do the big business that may come your way. So that, like you said, you don't go bankrupt. And I'm fascinated by the fact that you sat on your certification for a year. And just so very, very good insight. And I'm going to move on to the next question, Jeanette. So what would you say, and some of the questions may tie into subjects we've already covered, but what's a common mistake newly certified women make and how they think about their new certification? And I know we thought about, everything's going to come at once. So we can maybe elaborate a little bit.
I do think that's the biggest thing. I think the other thing that we hear, and I was that way, is like, I can access a list on the database of the certifying agency. There's a list of all these companies that have diversity supply managers, and I can just go to that list and they're going to give me business and maybe shoot off emails or send letters or whatever. And that's not how it works. Number one, there is no list that can be long enough to incorporate every company in this country that has a diversity supplier department or is in that space. So I think that is a big misnomer, and that, I can just get certified, go to the certifying agency's list, send out information, and then they're going to put me on their list and we're going to eventually get match made in heaven and we're good to go. And that doesn't work. So a list is great, but it's certainly, I didn't go after every list. In fact, the big contracts that I got were not even on the list of the certifying agency that I worked through. So I think the biggest, and I think next we're going to talk about kind of the ways to leverage it moving forward. So I think the biggest misnomer is you just sit on it and think the business will come to you. And then the second thing is, and we're asked this all the time, where can I access a list of all the companies that I can reach out to? Well, the list is endless. Go on Google. Like, there's your list right there. Yeah. So, but the other thing too is you already know as a business owner, probably the companies in your backyard or in the industry that you want to go after. And so that's really the list that you should start with. And that's what I did. And so I wrote down, after a year of going, well, I'm paying all this money to have this certification, I probably should use it. Yeah. So then I became really strategic about it and wrote down who are the companies in my backyard that I have been knocking on the door, but they don't answer. And so I made that list and then started to reach out directly. And that's when the ball started to move. And what's really funny is I felt, for me, and it'd be interesting to talk to other women that have utilized their certification to really grow their businesses. It felt like once I got the first one, the other ones came a little bit easier and faster. And so I felt like it kind of opened the door. Maybe I just became better at knowing how to navigate it. But I felt like that first one was the hardest, and then it became a little easier.
But I'm sure you also gained some momentum. And the thought of once you put energy into something, other things start falling into place because that's where your mindset is going. And, and I love the fact that every woman's list is going to be different because we're all in so many different industries and our business aspirations and goals are all different. So it is going to look a little different. So there can't be just one generalized list. So such an excellent point.
For sure. Yeah. So the strategies, and I know you and I, this is where you were going next. So I'll just jump ahead of you.
All right.
But the strategies that I utilized, and I think that we really recommend now that you're certified, first of all, congratulations for going through the certification process, because it is daunting. It is a lot to gather that information. And a lot of women stop at that point and don't even put the effort through to get certified. So first of all, congratulations if you're watching this and you have gone through that process and are now certified. And so you are asking yourself, okay, now what do I do? Well, don't do like I did and just think that, the business is going to come. So I do think, obviously, you do need to add the logo to all of your client-facing materials, all of your marketing materials, your website, your business cards. Obviously, you do want to promote that you are a certified woman-owned business, because that is obviously the street cred
Yep.
that you need to have. So that certainly is the first step, but don't just stop there. I think then you need to really start to research the companies that you want to do business with, but then also research the contacts that you want to do business with. So, and there's two kinds of contacts, because I think we kind of explain it like being certified opens up another door for you to walk through. There's
Okay.
more than one door. So like for me, I was in marketing. So certainly I could reach out to the marketing manager at this very large corporation and try to get them to notice me. And that is one avenue. But then also I can go call the supplier diversity manager, let them know I'm a diverse supplier. How do I get on your list? So that way you're kind of opening up two doors to get into the same company. So
Okay.
that's really the next step for me, especially on those larger companies. I'm talking Fortune 5, Fortune
Mhm.
100 companies. So, but there are thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of companies out there that have diversity supplier managers or directors that you can reach out to. So, find those companies, then find the diversity supplier manager and start to connect with them, and not to sell them, but to introduce yourself to them, to ask information about their process, and to find out how you can get on their internal diversity supplier list that all their managers reach out to. Because how it works in these corporations is, if I'm a marketing manager at a large financial institution or a large, if I want to order an exhibit, which is what I sold, I will reach out to the supplier diversity manager and say, I need a trade show exhibit. Who is on our supplier diversity list that I can reach out to, in addition to the other people that I'm talking to? You have a little bit of a leg up because they can check more than one box if they go with somebody on that diversity supplier list.
So true.
So that way you're on that list already, and you can still make that two-pronged approach. You can still reach out to the marketing manager like I did, but then you can say, hey, we are on your diverse supplier list. So that kind of doesn't move you to the front of the line, but it gives them another reason to choose you.
I love that. It gives them another reason to choose you. That to me is a huge, huge point. And I love the two doors instead of one. And Jeanette, so let's say I'm a woman business owner and I'm thinking, okay, how do I want to, let's say I want to contact a company. I manufacture hats, let's say, and I want to get into the retail industry. How would you recommend? Do I pick up the phone? Do I email? Do I do everything? Because that probably goes into the multiple door.
I would do all the above. I mean, I would send an email, then I would follow up with a phone call, then I would send another email. And really, again, the goal is to not sell. I think a lot of us, especially type A women business owners, right? We're go-getters, like we're make stuff happen people. But when you get them on the phone, it's not to sell your services, because they're just creating a list of like, here's the people. They're not going to select. So a great example is when I got the nationwide contract, I still had to present to the marketing manager, to all the stakeholders that were going to be working with me on their trade show program. The diversity supplier manager was in there, but he wasn't a decision maker.
Okay.
He was just in there to be like, yep, she's on the diversity supplier. He was part of the process, but the decision wasn't made by him. It was made by the team. That's why, I mean, in these larger companies, especially, you're going to need to have a couple inroads, because they're not always, the diversity supplier manager isn't always the one that's going to be like, yes, you must use these people. So that's why you have to kind of go down two paths.
Yeah, because there could be multiple decision makers. And it sounds like what you're saying also, while the door may open for you, there's still work to be done in that room.
Yeah. And in some cases, the diverse supplier manager is making the decision. But you really have to play both sides of it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So ask them how to be placed on their corporation's diverse supplier list. What does that process look like? In some, it's going to be, filling out an application that might even be listed on their website already. So you can look there too. The process is going to be different for every company, but how do you get your name on that list? That's really what you're trying to find out. And then you also should have done your research and saying, especially if you're not doing business with them, hey, I want to reach out to Kimberly in marketing. Are you able to connect me once you're on that list? Can you make that introduction into those departments that you want to try to do business with? Because, the diverse supplier is just going to put you on the list.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Now we need to take that next step, kind of close the loop there.
Okay. And it's the mindset of building relationships.
Yes, very
right.
much.
Right.
So those would be my big tips. And again, I'm just very much a chunk down your goals kind of person. So, maybe your goal once you get your certification is, I'm going to reach out to 20 companies. I'm going to make a list of the top 20 companies I would love to do business with.
Okay.
And then make that your goal. Don't try to go after all of them. Just pick 20. Because it's all a numbers game, right? So just start really working the 20 to get that going. And once you've exhausted that list and gotten on a few, and maybe you're not right for a few of the others, then you can open it up. Let's do another 20 and really start to navigate that and putting yourself on the list instead of, thinking, oh, there's 1,000 people on this list I saw that I need to reach out to all of them. And all you're really doing is sending a blanket email that really isn't going to get read. So I would just say quality over quantity as you're using your certification.
I love that. So that way you can be more effective. And otherwise, if you're dealing with this massive list, how are you effective? And that's overwhelming. It sounds overwhelming. So I love the 20, tackling it that way. And that kind of ties into one of our questions of just about the highest and best use of using your certification. And I would say, so one last question as we wrap up, Jeanette, is, and I almost think that what we just spoke about ties into this, and it's, what is the one thing our women business owners can do regularly to ensure that they have the mindset to succeed?
Oh, that's a good question. I think regularly just focusing on moving the rock one step at a time, and knowing what the end goal is, but just taking that one step. They've already taken the first step. They're certified. So now let's put together my strategy for utilizing my certification and then continue to build and expand upon that. Because, the other thing is you got to still keep running and operating a healthy business in order to get the business to scale and grow. So it's that constant dance of, I used to say that as a business owner, well, I still am a business owner, but you feel like you can never take your foot off the gas pedal, like it's that constant grind of the minute you take your foot off the gas pedal, the company starts to slow. So it's just constantly doing that dance every day of, I'm just going to move that rock forward one step at a time, push the rock up the hill, I used to say.
I love that analogy. And I know I did say that was my last question, but one other question came up because
you only have one. That's it.
It's a grind. It can be a grind, and we sometimes get down on ourselves.
Yeah.
Jeanette, during that year when you let your certification just sit, how were you able to flip your mindset to go after it again?
I think, obviously I had great intentions for that whole year after I got it. When I got it, I was like, okay, I'm going to make this work. And then I just got busy, frankly. My business was growing and scaling. And so I don't know that I intentionally didn't use it. I just thought I at least put the marketing stuff out there. And honestly, I wasn't educated. I didn't educate myself on how to use it. And then once that year rolled around, I had to write the check again for my certification. I was like, well, if I'm going to be writing this check every year, I need to make it work for me. Otherwise, I'm just throwing money away, and why even have it? So, and we don't want to see our women business owners wasting money and wasting energy. And so we want to give them as much knowledge as possible, because knowledge is power, on how to utilize their certification. So I would just say a lot of it was writing that check again made me go, okay, this is just sitting here. So I became more strategic.
I love it. Well, knowledge is power. And I am so grateful to have you on here. And I have to thank you for just pouring all of this wisdom into our women business owners, into our certification program, because I know watching this video will help many women who are on that journey. So Jeanette, thank you so very much for
you are welcome. My pleasure. It's a game changer for my business. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it is a game changer. And I know a lot of other women that would say the same thing. So I would just say, keep plugging away out there and keep charging up the hill, and good things will happen.
Good things will definitely happen. Thank you so much, Jeanette.
My pleasure. Take care.
You too.
Bye.